Welcome back to Sunrise Daily, coming to you live from our Abuja studio. Standing by with me are two gentlemen, Dr. Mike Enwelagi, a former state chairman of the former party Congress for Progressive Change, now vying for the slot of Deputy National Secretary at tomorrow's convention, and Mr. Ismael Ahmed, who is a member of the APC BOT and a member of the Convention Planning Committee. Dr. Enwelagi, you were sharing a thought with us. I would like you to conclude that thought, please.
Yes, we were talking about the fact that the president has done well. He has given leadership to the party, and that is why, for the very first time in the history of our country, we are seeing a president that is not given to theatrics. Those people, let's do it the way we normally do it. And so, when a leader gives leadership, he steps up the nick of time and says, no. For instance, look at the, with very due respect to the outgoing ESCO of our party. We agree we've done so well by seizing power, getting power from an incumbent. That's no mean feat. But you see, when you get the power, you should be able to manage it. The party should give a direction in such a way that that power that was freely given, we're able to sustain it.
The point you're making now actually leads me into my next question, because when you hear from Comrade Adams Oshomole, he says that the party under his leadership would no longer be just a political space where during elections people come together and try to mobilize and then have conventions, etc. That he is now saying that the APC should now be a policy hub that should guide the policy of whatever administrations are in place at the federal level, at the states, and the local governments. Mr. Ahmed, do you think that that is something that is achievable within the Nigerian context for a party to be supreme enough to tell the governors that, look, these are the resources available, this is how we expect you to go about your administration?
I think it is. I think it is. I think part of the problem that has always happened, not in APC. I've been in AMPP, I've been in APP, AMPP, CPC, and now I'm in APC. And I think part of the issues that's always bugged most political parties that has, somehow stunted their ability to be supreme over their elected officials is the simple fact that they couldn't be funded by anybody else except the people who were elected. And, he who pays the piper, usually dictates the tune. But if we have, because this is a political party that has about 12 million members. I was part of the registration committee in 2013. I know how many people went around registered in every ward, in every local government, in every state. And I know we have tremendous amount of card-carrying members of the party. And part of the guidelines or part of the provisions in the constitution of the party clearly states that for you to be recognized as a member of the party, you have to be a financially up-to-date member. You have to contribute to the party, even at your ward level or at your polling booth level. So if the leadership, the incoming leadership of the party would devise means to be able to fund itself or most of its activities independent of its elected officials, then it will begin to have this moral high ground of saying that we are supreme and everybody else who is elected under our platform would have to subscribe to our ideas. And I think from what I have seen in some of the people who are running for these offices, I think like I said, with sincere devotion, and that's exactly what the president wants all along. He wanted a party who, would be a party. That's why whenever there is a meeting, he goes to the party office. He just doesn't come and say, all right, you come here. He goes to the party office. He attends meeting because he said, ultimately, look, I'm a member of this party. I was a product of this party. And I think that leadership has been shown by the president. And I think the party now would have to take that mantle to the next level of ensuring, not dictatorially being tyrannical or anything, but it has to show its supremacy through being consultative enough, being very prudent in the management of its affairs, making sure that it raises its own money, and then executing activities.
Well, this is
clearly.
Exactly where I was going, because, through this convention, even after this convention, the same governors that were in place before the convention, who of course will be there after the convention, since the election is next year. And I want to ask you, we have heard the reports about even the governors, at the level of governors, that dues were not being paid, even by governors, and that even funds that had been paid into the coffers of the party had been somehow mismanaged by the executive of the party. If you have internal corruption issues, how would you be able to implement what seems like a very noble idea?
I don't know about this internal corruption you're talking about. I don't know about mismanagement of the funds that have been raised. I don't know about that. I have not seen any report about that. So, this is just you telling me. But I do know for a fact that, let's call a spade a spade. The elected officials of this party have contributed to a large extent in financing the party in so many on so many occasions. But I think that is not going to stop. Yes, we've had issues with, I'm sure, with some few governors in the beginning who jettisoned the idea of contributing to the party. But I think later on, as the convention inches closer and everybody understands the need for the party to be on his side, a lot of governors contributed to that as well. But having said that, I think the leadership, the incoming leadership, I should stop saying the whole leadership, the incoming leadership of the party, whether those who are running, who are still in this position, who are going to be retained, or those who are coming in new, would have to know that we have to institutionalize this party. And it cannot just be about people who just come in whenever it suits them and get whatever they want. There are so many members of this party that are aggrieved at so many levels, for example. But ultimately, it is going to be the job of the next leadership of this party to institutionalize this party. And institutionalizing this party would have to have means of raising our own funds. At
this juncture, we're going to throw it over to our Lagos studio, where my colleague Chamberlain is standing by with a question. Chamberlain?
Well, yes, Ismael, I'm just wondering, there's a lot that has been said about a certain unity list. And we know that meetings are consistently held and will be held even more chapter now up until the meeting, as you also highlighted. So could you tell us, is the party going with a unity list, or are they asking for a consensus? What's going to play out?
There's not going to be any unity list. I know that the president frowns upon things like that. There's nothing like a unity list. There has to be, if there is a consensus and somebody is standing on the post, that's fine. But a unity list that somehow suggests that there's a predetermined candidate before election takes place and every other contestant has the right to contest is simply unacceptable to this president, is simply unacceptable to us as the members of this party, and is simply unacceptable to us who are in the convention planning committee. If there is someone who has the right and who has bought the form, who has filled every criteria to run for any office, who has refused to be a consensus candidate, we hope there will be a consensus. But if he has refused to be a consensus candidate, there's not going to be any unity list going around and saying that these things are being predetermined. We're not going to allow that.
Some argue that they suggest that perhaps the reason why they're trying to build a consensus is such that they could manage those who may be aggrieved afterwards. First, do you think they have a point? And secondly, because at the end of the day, you may have a couple of people who may not like how things have gone, which happens in politics. So what is the thinking of the party in terms of how to possibly handle that kind of situation?
First of all, the word consensus suggests that everybody agrees. First of all. That's why we said it's highly encouraged for us to have a consensus. So once there is a consensus and everyone agrees, then I don't see how someone who has agreed to a consensus would now later come out and say that he's agreed. But we've all been in this game for a couple of few years, and we know that there will always be someone or somebody or some group that will say that they don't accept this or they don't accept that. They will probably challenge it in court or in court of public opinion. There will always be that, and there will be people who will second guess what we're doing, or if it is a predetermined or if it is driven by selfish interest. There will always be that potential possibility. But what we do know is that no matter what happens tomorrow through to Sunday, the party would have a serious job of reconciling people, regardless of the fact that people who are not even contesting in that convention, but they are going to be aggrieved by those who emerge as leaders at various levels. There are already people who are aggrieved at people that have emerged at state level, and they will continue to express their grievances. Now it is the absolute responsibility, because leadership just simply means responsibility, not just the privileges and all the coteries that comes to the office. Now the job of the leadership of the party would to insist and make sure that not only placates everybody, but to ensure that we have had some sort of reconciliation efforts afterward. That is absolutely, absolutely necessary.